is, and we were talking before we recorded, I feel as if this year was a normal year on the pitch. Like we didn't have as many problems just pitch wise. We had again, there are the scandals, they're the big things that we will certainly touch on. But I feel like on the pitch, it felt, especially how the year started, it felt like a good year on the pitch for results. I think at the end of the year, we have what, 8 wins, 7 draws, no official losses in regulation time. Most of them all in penalties, I believe. So I think a successful year on the pitch for uh, the national team there. Just as an overall looking on the pitch only, what are some of your highlights that you look back for the year?
Yeah, it's always important to remember the positives for sure because I feel like we haven't had a long time or we hadn't had a year that was undefeated for a long time.
Mhm.
So I feel like as you mentioned, the results actually were quite positive and there was spells through the year, especially in the Olympics where we were playing actually quite well. And so I think for me, highlights, I thought the two tournaments to start off the year, the Gold Cup, the She Believes Cup, were really promising. Like you kind of felt something was building, and the results were relatively good. We were hanging with the states, etc. So those are highlights. On pitch, the Olympics was a highlight for me. I thought that was like a really galvanized group, and then I thought again how we ended the year in this last window specifically was also quite positive with some new faces and getting to see some new players, which is like this next cycle is going to be like for the long haul. So it's time to
Mhm.
start seeing some players, and I was really excited to see them to end the year.
No, I think those first two tournaments, I think those were looking at. So you have the Gold Cup W, the return of the Gold Cup W, though some people branded it as the first ever. I'm like, we've had these before, but let's
Mm-hmm.
relax. I don't want to just focus in on the states matchups for both of them, but I think those were the two where I looked at and I both felt encouraged and a bit disappointed. I mean, the Gold Cup W matchup with the states was I mean, it's Jin- Jesse Fleming just nutmegged another U.S. defender, and Vanessa Gilles is still sliding to this moment. But I remember watching that game, and other than the pitch conditions, CONCACAF, please be better than this. Come on, guys. Um, that result was hard, but then when you look at the result in the She Believes Cup, I think it was the first time in a long time where it felt as if we were playing the States in a point where it didn't feel as if we were sitting back and defending. There was like maybe in World Cup qualifiers a few years back where maybe those first 15, 20 minutes, it felt like we were going back and forth before the US took control of the game there. But those two matchups really felt like, and we'll talk about Priestman a little bit later, clearly. But like it felt like Priestman was finally figuring out the formula to play against the States, though we didn't get the results in regulation time, two PK losses. But it felt as if like the team was really playing well in those tournaments. Like you said, we were seeing some moments, you're seeing some strides on the pitch, which was really looking good for them. I think I felt most encouraged there. But it was also a nice coming of age or coming out party for a few players that maybe those who followed the team were familiar with. Maybe those who hadn't followed it were like, who is this? Okay, there's another Rose on the team, and her name is Jade. Okay, gotcha. There's Deanna and there's Jade, and she is defending everyone. And then, of course, Olivia Smith having her breakout tournament there as well. I think the question I have for you, looking at the Gold Cup W, who do you think out of those two young players had a better showing in the tournament going through?
I mean, honestly, they're neck and neck. They both play such different positions, but they both showed that they're among the best in their position, at least for young players globally. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, when's the last time we scored 2 goals against the Americans twice in a row, right? So,
Right.
offensively, things look good. I think a lot of that did hinge upon an Olivia Smith who kind of adds something to the mix, although she didn't play in the She Believes, but she did play in the Gold Cup. So I
Yeah.
think the Gold Cup, like really, you saw her quality off the bench. and starting in the group stage as well. And then Jade Rose, I guess she's been on my radar for longer, maybe, because I kind of was expecting it from her.
Ooh.
You know, like I was expecting that quality of play from her because I feel like she has been bringing that since about 2022. So, I mean, speaking of, she's out of school now, and I'm sure she's making a move in January. So she's just going to keep going from strength to strength. But yeah, hard to pick one. Both like just so exciting young players to have on our roster.
No, I think for me, Olivia has been one of my favorite youth players to watch through the ranks and go to the national team. And Jade kind of falls under the radar a bit. But for me, my first real exposure of her was those 2 friendlies in Australia pre-World Cup, where, I mean, you saw, I was like, okay, that's Sam Kerr, but you're defending her well. This is interesting. She misses the World Cup because of injury, but then goes to Gold Cup W, has a solid showing against Trinity Rodman, comes out and continues to play. She was a player when you looked at and you saw, oh, okay, maybe she was a player that if she's at the World Cup, they play a little bit better, maybe defensively, that allows them either go to a back 3 a little bit sooner, maybe not. I think for me, just the year on, I know Olivia has the numbers, she has the accolades, she has the moments, but to see a player like Jay kind of develop still in the collegiate ranks and be effectively so important on the national team, I think it's hard to pass up. I tend to side a bit more, though I love Olivia as a player. I side with Jade because I'm more curious to see where she kind of ends up, where she goes, what club that she goes. Do you have a pick for where you'd like her to go professionally? I'm thinking
So,
my personal thought is Wolfsburg. I just send her to Wolfsburg,
oh, okay.
marinate there, and then go.
Yeah,
Because
yeah. I like your thinking because I would also send her to the Bundesliga, to be honest. Just tactically, I think she would play right away, and also I think she would do really well in that league. My polls, Manchester City always wins. Too many City fans follow me, but
I've
they
noticed.
can certainly use her. And then the United fans are trying to get in there, and I'm like, no, not United. Anywhere but United. I hate Mark Skinner. And then the Arsenal fans started coming in too, and I was like, can you guys relax? She's not going to Arsenal. But either way, she should go somewhere that she plays minutes right away.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a top 5 league. I think it's going to be a top 3 club in any of the top 5 leagues because she has the caliber to play right away. And so I don't think she necessarily needs an intermediary stop in Portugal or Denmark or whatever. Like, she's ready for the big time. So I hope it's a top 5 club and a top 5 league. And I'm leaning towards Germany. We know that it's not the States because she did.
Yeah.
Like, there was an interview with her sister that said they both wanted to play in Europe. So exciting though.
No, exciting nonetheless. And I think Europe would be a good spot for her. I'm curious to see what the pipeline looks like now, especially with the NWSL getting rid of the draft, right? What that does for players. How does the NSL now start to navigate that world where, again, now you're competing with the NWSL for players on a domestic front, but also internationally. There's a lot of curiosities with her, but again, with no German ties other than saying, yeah, just get her to Wolfsburg, please. I think she'd be a very nice fit at Wolfsburg. And I think that'd be a good profile where she can break in. Like you said.
Yeah, and they have a couple aging defenders, actually, so it's a really good shout. And they play three back.
All the reasons why I was saying Wolfsburg. Send her there, and now I'll have reasons for my tour of Europe at some point in the near future when I'm not in student debt.